Hi everyone, we are here for the June energy update and the solstice is coming up. So I still can't believe we're almost 6 months into the year, and with it comes ever increasing energetic times. And what I've been receiving is a major shift in the collective rebirthing process. Now, again, I will always say to you, I don't know what that's going to look like materially on the ground yet. As we know, most often the material will follow the energy. All right. So, what I'm identifying for you today is the energetic cycle or information that's coming through to me for the month of June. If some of that starts to manifest in the material, in what we see day to day, great, but it may spread out over time. And most of this does spread out over time because remember, and I've said this before, we're not going to wake up one morning, everybody's going to go out on their doorstep and go, oh my gosh, it's here. It's all done. We're complete. That's not how this works, as I think most of us know. It is a slow, gradual, patience process. But a lot of times the information on what is starting to arrive comes in as though it sounds like it's just going to be a thunderbolt, right? And sometimes it can be, right? And certainly it can be in our own individual lives. So just remember what I speak of too. As we know, we are individually, I'll just say a microcosm of the collective. So all of what I talk about applies to each of us individually, but there's usually, and in particular today, there's a collective piece and there's an individual piece. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining me. I always love your comments too. There are a lot of you who are just regulars, and I love to hear from you and really articulated, thought out comments. And I also think it's fantastic when you share your journeys because, again, as we know, it's so helpful to people who don't understand what they're going through, and then they can start relating back. And it's always fun for me too, because, I'm going through the same thing. And just because I channel information doesn't mean, I don't learn from other people and, like to get like kind of the synchronicity around that too, that, oh, I'm not the only one going through this. So thank you so much for all of that. And for those of you who are new, I appreciate you being here. If you can like, share, and subscribe, I would appreciate that. It helps me be able to share this message with other people who might be searching for this kind of information. So thank you so much for being here today. So I have a lot of notes. So what happened again, I don't know if this is the way it's going to be, but my channeling changes and morphs. There's a foundational component to it that stays the same, but the way it comes through can often be different. And the last time I might have told you that I had meditated beforehand, and then I got all this information. Well, the same thing happened. I have a page of information that I'm going to talk about. I tried to, and it's kind of how it did come through. And how they do this is they don't flow a whole story through necessarily. They're always a little riddled. I usually can break that down and break that out. It's not as riddled today at all, but at the same time, I think many of you understand how the light keepers do speak. So it's similar to what you've seen in the past, but they do have a collective part and then an individual part. So as we're going into the solstice in June, I still can't believe it, but anyway, as we're going into the solstice in June, there is primarily what they're talking about here too is this, it's like a mark in time for this year, and actually not just for this year, it's actually for the way forward, because there's something about the next 6 months that, and I'm just getting this now, they didn't really talk about this, the next 6 months, the rest of the year, that in many ways will like be earth shattering. Now, here's the thing, I don't know what that looks like materially, but earth shattering in a sense of a number of energetic events that will be occurring. Now, that could be in human form, human action taking place. I don't know, governments, whatever. But it's things we're going to see and know. And most of us know that we're going through a lot right now, particularly, I think, worldwide, obviously. But I'm in the United States, so again, somewhat familiar, obviously, with what's going on here, and we're going through a lot of shift and change, as you might know. But what I am getting is they just said ratcheting up the next 6 months of the year. So the interesting thing is we counterbalance that with this awakening journey. And I mean, counterbalance it in a way that keeps things grounded and held down when all that chaos is happening. We're still part of the collective, those of us awakening. It's not we're separating out, we're not still connected. We're just in a different space, and we're actually more helpful in that frequency and that vibration. And that whole new earth idea, the cell splitting that I've talked about a million times, old earth, new earth idea, that doesn't mean we're leaving and they're leaving. It means we are, how do I want to explain this? I mean, I guess I don't need to go through that again. I won't waste our time here going through that. But the point in that is we counterbalance that, okay, of what's the chaos of what's going on. And many of us can actually feel that. So as they ratchet up the last 6 months of the year, going into 2026, which feels like, 2026, we're stepping into that, getting ready to step into that. Okay, well, let's focus on June. I don't mean to be focusing on the rest of the year. I'm going to start by reading a few things that they brought through. I have a whole page here, and we're going to hopefully talk a little bit more about that. But frankly, this whole page in itself could just be the message. But so what they brought through to me, and again, I was just meditating for myself, and all of a sudden I realized I better get my notebook out. And so I did, and instead of a nice quiet meditation for myself, this is what I received. So what they really want us to understand, some of this might be obviously information that you've heard before, but they really want to make this point that this journey that we are on is a one of collective rebirthing, okay? At the very end, they talk about how we've actually been in prison, okay? But this collective rebirthing, remember these a lot of metaphors, we've actually been in prison, but this collective rebirthing through each of us individually is what then creates a collective rebirthing, all right? And we're now starting to see this collective rebirthing, okay, led by those of us who have been doing this work either for some time or very quickly. All of a sudden we're there moving forward in this awakening journey. And remember, we're magnetic and we are holding more light, okay? As we go through this awakening, we're able to hold more light and our field is stronger. So anyway, they really want us to understand this is a collective rebirthing process brought about by the individual, rolling up into the larger collective, okay? And then they spoke from their own voice many times throughout this. And what they're talking about here too is in this collective rebirthing, they're saying, might you reach out to your brethren in these times, like on the ground action. And then they said, bring light into form. So bring light into form. What does that mean? Well, for many of us, it can mean, and this is more what I'm getting, is we've kind of been holed up in our little world for a long time. We're not meant to be isolated, okay? Now, I realize there's the whole spectrum of people being introverted to being extroverted, and that this process can make us even more, the extroverts less extroverted, the introverts even more introverted, right? It can do that for a period of time. But I keep getting what we're being called to action. Now, that does not mean you got to go out in a protest march and participate with a large group of people or join a group, an activist group or whatever that might be, or, actually go to meetings on a regular basis. That's not what I'm necessarily getting, but how will you act, all right? What kind of on the ground action, what does that mean for you? Now, for me, because I've thought about this, my on-the-ground action is, I live in honestly, there are about 800 people. I know that probably sounds like an overwhelming amount of people in a 6-block radius. And it is, I feel like I live in the country. It's so quiet. It's amazing. But anyway, I've lived here for some time, and I'm on a corner where there's also a bus stop, and it's a side street, and I am a gardener. And so guess what? I'm out all the time, in between my sessions, in between doing things like this. And I have connected with so many people this way, on the ground action. So it may be something like that. I know I know I'm meant to be here for that purpose, for that reason. I see so many people interacting with people day to day, wherever you're going, making eye contact, saying hello, smiling. Those little things actually matter. So what is your on the ground action, right? So think about that for yourself. And, how are you bringing light into form? Remember that. I think that's a beautiful one. How are you bringing light into form, or bring light into form through this collective rebirthing that we're all going through, all right? Because we can't do it without you. We can't do it without your neighbor. We can't do it. So everybody's going through their journey in their own way. And the other thing that I spoke of the other day with someone is, when you start looking back on your life, and I think I mentioned this previously, before you woke up, which the bulk of my life I was not awake, right? Oh, like 90% of it, I wasn't awake. And, when we start looking back on the journey that we had before we woke up, we were still going through our journey. Like we can go, oh, that led to that and that led to that, but I was unconscious. So when we're conscious, when we're waking up, we're more able to understand the bigger picture and participate in a way we wouldn't be able to otherwise. So anyway, bringing light into form, I want to leave you with that. So that's really something to think about as you're moving into the solstice times and these new times that we're in that feel like they're very much accelerating. And we are being, I haven't looked lately, but what they're saying is we're going to be pounded more and more with, in a good way, although our bodies can really react to this. Sometimes our minds too, right? From the solar events. Okay, so that's an assistance for us forward, but it doesn't always feel like that. Okay, so something else they said to me. Again, remember this is starting. Well, it's kind of already started, but I'll just say they're emphasizing these things in June for a reason. They also said a split is coming, one that will bring together those of unlike minds. And I kind of sat there, because remember I'm meditating, and I was like, unlike minds. And they said, unlike minds. A split is coming, one that will bring together those of unlike minds. So what I'm getting a sense of here additionally, after I've written that down, and they brought that through, is, okay, what they're showing me right now is two groups of people, because remember, it's duality, right? Like usually we're on one side or the other. That's why, we mainly have just two political parties. It goes on and on, right? Of why there's only two things to choose from lots of times. Anyway, what I keep getting is bridging the chasm. This is interesting. Bridging the chasm. I'm seeing two sides, and one starting to look at the other and vice versa, and realizing that they are more alike than unlike, but in human form, we are often very unwilling to admit that. Think about it. We're very unwilling to get off of our, move away from our stance because of pride, because of ego, because of all of that. No, I'm right kind of thing. But there's an energy, underlying energy of people starting to go, oh, wait a minute. We're now starting to bridge that gap. So I'll leave you with that. But within that, they said the completion cycle. This is part of a completion cycle. I'm like, oh, and I meant to do this before I recorded this, but maybe you guys can tell me because I'll probably go look it up afterwards. But I don't know what's going on for alignments. Darn, I meant to do that. Other than I do know, obviously, the solstice that we have coming up in June. But I don't know what other significant alignments are coming. But they've definitely said that we're in a completion cycle, okay? Definitely a completion cycle. And okay, they just showed a slingshot. I think they've offered slingshot references before. It might be in individual client sessions, but so we're being slingshotted out of the solstice times. I just heard to find our way home. It's a little bit like unknown. We might feel like we are lost in time and space. I don't always know what these mean, but they can play out in things that you understand as well, or the things that come down the road. But this is really interesting. So we're going through a completion cycle, or we're in a completion cycle. Is that right? Yes. Okay, anybody that knows anything out there at all about the cosmic events, feel free to share, or anything you think this might relate to. Anyway, okay, so that's a lot of collective information there too, but I've got more. So they said to me, line up and stand strong. And then they said, For you, the will of the people, joined collectively as souls, will henceforth be seen as the new age of times. Okay. Oh my gosh. So this again, this is my understanding of this, but what I get out of this is this idea of the oneness of us, right? The will of the people, all right? What I just talked about earlier, joined collectively as souls, starting to bridge the chasm, will henceforth be seen as the new age of times. We're in it. We're in it. We're just touching it. We're in it, okay? And it's because of, the work we've done. It is because of the work we've done. We had to get this to this place individually and as a group, and more are coming, because you got to have the magnetic pull first from those individuals who started this whole kind of first wave or journey, right? Okay, so again, for you, the will of the people, joined collectively as souls, will henceforth be seen as the new age of times. I love that. And then what they gave me without it being in their voice was that the times aren't coming to us. A lot of us think, oh, we can't wait for that time. We are creating those times, right? We're creating them. But we've never been taught that. We just assume things show up over time and it's just done to the way we're done to kind of thing. And we're waiting, just like the whole idea of waiting for our Savior kind of thing, right? No, it's us. We're creating those times. So the times aren't coming to us. We are creating them. All right? And then this is a beautiful saying that they brought through. I have a feeling I'm going to be starting to do more poetry again. I used to sit down like daily for about a year and a half, and I'd have like 2 or 3 poems come through to me. And I think it's starting to come through. But anyway, point is they then said, one ember of fire does not make, but the collective will of the people, brought about by the steadfastness of your awakening soul, creates a firestorm of change, a vibration so bold that a tsunami of collective awakening will sweep the lands. I just think that's incredibly powerful. And then they say, rise up to the promise held within the hearts of each of you. That's the collective information. It feels very profound. Everything that Jay just brought through is almost like it's a preparation for. I will say this just hit me just now. Where is that? Okay, I have a sticky note. About 4 or 5 days ago, I have chills now. And I always have trouble reading my writing. But they said to me, and this had to do with June, and I forgot about this note till just now. Bravery for the way forward. They said, hold the torch and flame. What does this say? Okay. Bravery for the way forward, hold the torch and flame. And then I have the word June. So that lines up. All right. But I think that's just so beautiful. But I think if those of you who had followed me long enough to know, and I'm thinking this just right now, this is pretty profound stuff. It feels very, I want to say serious in a way, right? Like our energy is that beautiful fortress of light. It's a fortress, but it's also what are the ramming rods or whatever they call them? What are those? They keep showing a fortress, but then they show the fortress, but they also show that like we are the ones to do the entering into. Okay. Now, what I will say to you, just don't take away thinking, oh God, times are going to be awful for me because I'm a first waver or I'm the one ramming into the way forward. I'm not saying that. Okay, but we do become more sensitive. We're all still going through our journey. We'll also have our individual stuff. But again, I feel like I want to read this again. I'm going to read this one more time, okay, because this is pretty profound. And the message that they brought through this time for June is profound. Again, I feel like it's more serious. It's more, again, how that manifests in the material will kind of wait to be seen. And maybe we'll get some of that here in a minute. They don't like to talk, it's interesting. The future is malleable because of free will. and timelines collapsing. And there's a lot of timelines just changing right now. So anything I bring in for the future, what I always tell people, particularly in client sessions, is what I have seen, what we see in the now moment. It can change with free will and with timelines collapsing. So, and not just our own free will, other people's free will, right? But that said, yeah, so let me read this part again because I just think it's important. One ember of, well, let me see, hold on a second. I have notes right in front of me, so I'm going to do this. Okay, here we go. I'll just read it. For you, the will of the people, joined collectively as souls, will henceforth be seen as the new age of time. And then I said the times aren't coming to us, we are creating them. One ember of fire does not make, but the collective will of the people, brought about by the steadfastness of your awakening soul, creates a firestorm of change, a vibration so bold that a tsunami of collective awakening will sweep the lands. Rise up to the promise held within the hearts of each of you. I think that's really profound, and it's also, it feels very, the whole bravery thing, the kind of warrior-like, light worker, warrior kind of idea. It feels like we're really coming into our own, and that we've done all this work for these times. And like these next 6 months too, is what I'm getting. Leading us into 2026, which we know is going to be profound, is what I keep getting. They keep taking me to the future, which is interesting. Okay, so now this is more individual, the rest of what they brought through to me. They said to me, it's the little things. Being conscious in your ever-waking moment. Okay, so I'm going to try to help you with this. Because we may think, oh yeah, we're conscious, But what I've realized is now my consciousness, my conscious awareness of my day-to-day is unlike any time before. And I'm going to give you some really specific examples in that it almost can be a little overwhelming for our minds because we're so aware of so much, right? But this is in the day-to-day as well. So I will, many of you know I'm a gardener, and by the way, hopefully I'll do a July sometime garden tour like I've done the past 3 or 4 years, because a lot of you have really liked that. So thank you. But anyway, what I have started to do, this has been, things shift and change just on your own. It's not like you go, oh, I'm going to go do that thing, right? I'm going to focus on doing that thing. Sometimes it just happens. Like for me, just not, all of a sudden music is not a thing for me, other than just no voices and just spiritual tones and music and native kinds of music. Anyway, that just happened, right? But as a gardener, I used to go out for years and just go in, clip things down, not think, not connect. There was the lack of consciousness, even in my awakening journey, because we continue to grow in this consciousness. It's this fine detail understanding of the connection we have to everything. And then you start to notice it within what you see and what you feel. And it is life-changing. So for me as a gardener, in the example I'm using, I now see so much has changed for me. Many of you may say, well, you didn't do that before. I'm like, no, I didn't. Like when I want to go trim something, I just would go trim. I just be like, and I'm always kind of like, I'm a like, okay, let's get this done. Let's make this look right. Let's do this kind of thing, right? I'm not a manicure gardener, but let's get this thing out of here that doesn't belong here. I don't do that anymore. What I do is, and this is this detailed level of consciousness, and I know it can get deeper, is I ask the tree first if I can trim its branch. Now, I'm still not great at that sometimes. I forget because I've been so enculturated in just doing my thing as a human, kind of that whole idea of how we came in the Industrial Revolution and destroyed so much, right? Like we saw the plethora of what was out there that was provided for us, and we decided we needed all of it. It's kind of that same idea, right? And so now what I do is I really look at with detailed eyes on even the smallest things. And I'm using a plant app, those are wonderful, by the way, to help me understand what is what and learn more about that plant. And even the fact that some of these things I was taking out were natives, and I didn't know it because a lot of people called them weeds and all that, and they're not. But talking to the tree, asking if it's okay to trim it, and then feeling that feeling, or knowing that and having that knowing. Being able to connect with those plants, talking to the plants, being able to see them differently. You see them energetically, you see them as a compatriot. You see them, you see the insects, completely different, down to the detail. And that's the gap that we've had for so long. We've come in and we think we're being a caretaker, but we're doing it in a way that's human, not as a collective soul with nature, okay? In the example I'm using. But that's what I'm talking about. I hope I'm making sense, but it's literally so deep. You can think of, this is a good example. You can think of, I think many of you have heard of Veda Austin and her work with water. That's what I'm talking about. If you know what her work is, it's understanding it from a energetic, collective soul perspective, understanding water at that level of heartfelt space, of consciousness, of awareness, of knowing you're connected to it. So if you haven't read anything about with Veda Austin's work, I would highly recommend that. She's actually on Gaia TV as well, just recently on interviewed on Open Minds, but she's fantastic. Anyway, that's a really other good example of understanding water at its, like literally its soul energetic level, right? It's source level. That's what I'm talking about with everything that we do. And that starts to happen, and it's so beautiful that you can't see things any other way. And this has started to happen to me over the last year, particularly now spring and summer, because now I'm able to get out to hike and I just see things differently. I don't bike anymore. I used to be a runner and a biker, a bicyclist, I should say. And I was always into speed. See how fast I can go, how fast I can get it done, everything. And what I realized over time is, for me, running, you're just in pain most of the time. At least I was, until you got kind of going. And I ran for 20 years, and I missed everything. I mean, yeah, it was a great stress reliever, but then with biking, I was like, oh, cool. Oh, this was slower. This is nice. But guess what? I don't even bike anymore because I miss so much when I bike. But when I biked, I saw more than I did when I ran. So it's really interesting. Now I'm gravitated toward just walking all the time, hiking, because I'm seeing the nuances. And it's amazing what spirit will bring you to see when you're able to be in that moment. So anyway, I know that's a long-winded way of talking about being conscious of the little things in you every waking moment. This is enhancement over the course of the summer. June is what I'm really getting for this, but this is really what they want us to do. Again, it's kind of part of the natural process. Let's see. Okay, then they said this. Okay. And this is for June, because we really want to get deep on this. What is your deep fear holding you back from all you want to be and express? Now, I'm going to turn my notes over. We may think, oh, I've conquered all those. I'm done. I don't have any fears. Well, I'm going to guarantee you now that there's more. There are nuances. There are always dust in the corners. There are things that we don't even understand and may never understand in the human form of what we can do and be, because of how we've been so enculturated. So what I'm getting on this is really feeling into that question. And I'm going to read it again. I'm flipping notes back and forth, by the way. Because I did not put this online. I decide I'm writing more too, in hand or in script. What is your deep fear holding you back from all you want to be and express? This is June, remember, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that ends in June. This is something to consider and think. Oh, and here's why. It's because of the solstice. Okay, so what they then said is release this to the solstice. Make an energetic offering. Go there. And they also really, and I saw this as a visual, so I think I'm going to go do it. On the solstice, sunlight and water, and release that fear. Like they were showing sunlight, being in sunlight, being in water, crystalline water, whatever that means for you, and release. Now, you don't have to do that, but this is what they're talking about as a kind of an optimum or an idea is what I'll say. Releasing that fear into the solstice. You know, and I really feel like there's so much more to unlock And we don't know even sometimes what it is that's holding us back. It could just be the construct of the entirety of this human life. I mean, we think that's real, right? It's not real. It's constructed. So what happens when you let go of all that? And isn't that kind of scary? What does that mean is that your fear, right? Is that our fear? Is if I let go of all the things, and here's the thing, the financial construct too is a construct. Everything's a construct, right? And yes, I know we're in this to be able to be in a play as such, but at the same time, what is it about that, not having that play, that is scary? What if you don't have a script any longer? What if you're not given a script and you're an actor on the stage, right? What's your fear? What's going to happen? What are you holding on to, right? So they really want us to go deeper, especially when we think, oh, well, I took care of that fear. Did you? I know I sure haven't and everything. I'm pretty proud of where I've come from, right, on most things. But I am darn sure that there are other things that are going to pop up. And what I really need to do, rather than just wait for the thing to happen, I need to sit with it. Like, I don't mean for 5 minutes. And I'm not good at this, by the way. I am not good at it. I usually things just kind of show up, right? Even though I do dig deep when they show up. But I like, oh, they just said looking for answers. So yeah, like, do I ever go really looking? I don't know. And do we? I don't know. We're all just busy, right? A lot of us have slowed down since the awakening journey. We understand this about balance. But they really want us to go deep into, again, I'll read it one more time so that you know. What is your deep fear holding you back from all you want to be and express? Because here's the thing. That will align as we release those things with creativity. I mean, maybe it's things like, I don't know, am I carrying the ancestral lineage and clearing for that? Okay, well, go look at that. Like, go look at, if you're feeling that. I mean, it's maybe like that big stuff like that. It may have to do with past life. I don't know. It may have to do with the fear, and where's that fear coming from? Or what do you fear? And then take that back. Like, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? So releasing this into the solstice, offering this up, there's a reason for this, because remember, be all you can be, to be all you can be. And remember, it's for us, but it's for the collective journey. We do not do this without the rest of the collective. They do not do this without us. And yet it's an individual journey, which I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. All right. It's the oneness, right? It's the oneness. So with that, let's see what else we have. Because we're getting toward the end here. Okay. And this, I couldn't read my writing fully, but what they did say was the soul, and this is in reference to what I just said, the soul knows no bounds. The soul knows no bounds. It's all there, right? It's all there. We are just in human form, and we've been essentially put into kind of a near prison as such, right? And yet at the same time, there's been so much beauty in our journey, and there's been so much suffering, right? So we see that duality, we get those experiences, all of that. But remember, this is what we're working toward. The soul knows no bounds. Who are you? You know who you are. Now you have to accept that and start to believe it and embody it and be it. So that is what we're bringing forward for June. I'm going to see if there's anything else, although I really feel like I should just stop here, given that was a pretty extensive bit of information. Let's just see what we've got, if there's anything profound that we've missed. Okay, they're going to bring through a poem. Your time will come when you will see the light of time shine in everyone's eyes. Your journey has not been for naught. It has been filled with blessings and joy, suffering and tears. And yet you will look back one day in time, each in your own journey, reflecting upon the work you have done that has brought others into the fold, awakening them into their own deepest soul, brightening the way forward for the collective of all time. For you know who you are. Your journey will not end without you understanding this. For this is why you came in during this time of life, to know who you are and more, and then embodying it in the human form. Okay. Oh, wow. I hope you have enjoyed this message. Again, as I always say, take what resonates, toss the rest aside, but stay open. I always hope that you take one thing away that really resonates with you for the way forward. Again, happy June. I will probably be coming back with a pre-solstice message, something maybe more detailed. I don't know. But again, I appreciate your comments and I love to hear from you. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.